Hi folks, my name's Joe Harris. I wanted to give you a few tips that I've come to learn in my frustration of playing guitar with short fingers. And just to show you, that finger there is about 3 1/8 inches long. And you've all probably watched a lot of videos, as I have, probably 30, where they tell you how to overcome obstacles in playing the guitar with short fingers. And usually, the person telling you that is a person with pretty long fingers. So, I definitely have short fingers, and I'm going to read this and then comment on it because I don't want to miss anything. First tip is, and you may know some of this and you may disagree with some of it. I hope there's something there that could help you in your quest to play guitars. A short scale guitar, you can still get one that sounds pretty good. This has a real big sound. This is a Taylor GS Mini, and it's got a large guitar sound. It's got a lot of volume. It's $499, and the scale length is the distance between the bridge and the nut up here. The standard scale length is 25 inches. This has got 23.5 inch scale length, and it helps a little. It doesn't help a whole bunch, but it helps a little. The second thing is the nut width. And this is the nut right here at the top. Most of you probably already know this. This has got a 1 11/16 inch nut, and you need to get as small a nut as you can deal with. If you've got short fingers, it doesn't mean your fingers aren't big, and 1 11/16 might be too close for your fingers, and you start dulling the sounds of the other strings. So they also make a 1 3/4 inch, which is pretty good. And for you classical players, about 1 3/4 is about the narrowest nut width you can find. Ortega makes a guitar called a slim neck, and it's got a 1 3/4 inch scale, and it's pretty playable. I mean, a 1 3/4 inch nut, but it's a standard scale length. It's 25.5. The third item I've got here is I learned to play through an entire song before investing time memorizing the first few bars to make sure you can make the stretches. In other words, I spent a lot of time starting songs off, and you might get through half the first page or the entire first page, X amount of bars, and you memorize that, and you find out when you flip the sheet over, you can't make the stretch. So I've learned to go ahead and, however slowly I do it, go ahead and play through the song to make sure I can make the stretch. And fourth is try dropping some bass notes where you cannot make the stretch and just play the melody in that part of the song. And that's worked for me on a few songs, and usually it sounds pretty good. And you can pick up the bass notes when you can make the stretch, and when you can't, just drop the bass notes. And the song still sounds pretty good with the melody in there. And number 5 is try lifting off a note early to play the next note to see if the song still sounds okay. So if there's a stretch you can't make, and this has happened to me very few times, just once or twice maybe, where I couldn't make the stretch, but I could play that one note and lift off when I should be holding it a little bit longer, and the song still sounds okay. That's not always the case. It won't always sound okay, but that's something to try. And another thing I've done, and not very often, is see if you can play the note on an adjacent string if you cannot make the stretch to the note on the intended string. I think I've done that once or twice where you're playing down the fretboard a little ways and it shows, where you're playing a certain note a certain way, and you can get an adjacent string and get the same note and make that stretch where you couldn't make the other one. Number 7 is, I try dropping bars in a song where you cannot make the stretches. And you may be able to blend to another bar or bars by studying which bars melodically follow each other in the song. And I've done that on a few songs, and I could play almost all the song, but not quite all of it. And I study the song, and I see which bars fit together melodically. And if I skip a bar or two, I try to fix it so it blends in with the song and still sounds good. And if it sounds good, that's really what you're after. You're not after, your hand isn't going to grow or get any bigger unless you're a child. And number 8 is you can try playing with a capo on the 2nd or 3rd fret. That works. The downside to that is the neck gets bigger as you move down it, of course. And there's some songs if you got a 12 fret guitar and you got to play on the 12th fret and you've got this capo on the 2nd fret, that's not going to work for you, but that's one suggestion. And the last tip I have is, if you have a particular song you would like to play but you just can't play it, search for other versions of the song with the hope that you can find a version that you can play. I've done this a lot. And I've found that there's as many as 20 versions of some songs. And if you just search around long enough, you're likely to find a version that you can play. And the bottom line is, it's a challenge to play with short hands. There's no doubt about it. And I hope there's something in here that I've experienced that may help you. And any suggestions or comments that you have that may help others or help me, please put them in the comments. I'd appreciate that. And if you found this where it helped you at all or interesting, please like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.